Hey everyone, today we're going to get into compliant solar lead generation in 2024 and beyond. I've had a lot of questions about the new ruling. Today we're going to go over the law and the statement, what it actually means. We're going to talk about some of the things defined in there and what the potential repercussions could be. And then we're also going to talk about how to do actually compliant solar marketing in 2024 and then beyond into 2025 when the actual ruling starts. Let's get into it. All right, so before we get into how to actually do compliant solar lead generation for 2024 and then 2025, I just want to talk about the actual statement that was issued at the end of last year, which is the voting that was ruled on. And so we're going to actually read this statement from Commissioner Jeffrey Starks, who, some kind of weird mix-up of Marvel and Game of Thrones going on. A statement of Commissioner Jeffrey Starks. Combating robocalls and robotexts is like whack-a-mole. We shut down one scam, another one arises. We close one pathway for illegal and unwanted calls, fraudsters create another. But this is no game, and the FCC has not backed down. We are adapting our tactics and adopting new ones. That's what today's order does. First, we impose additional text blocking requirements on providers, building on those we adopted in March of this year. Second, we target the lead generator loophole. Consumers have a right to control who contacts them, and just because you want to comparison shop does not mean you agree to provide a blanket consent to be robocalled and robotexted by strange, unrelated parties looking to prey. And finally, we ask questions about what other steps we can take to stay ahead of scammers, including whether and how to impose certain parts of our robocall playbook, including traceback and authentication onto our robotext efforts. Here, as always, we will benefit from the knowledge and input of our industry and public interest partners. Thank you to the FCC staff who worked on this item. It has my support. So this came out on December, where's the date? 13th, 2023. And so a lot of people were wondering, is this going to pass? What it's going to look like? And I think some interesting things, just like in the actual document, the FCC, I think, feels fairly serious about this. And I think this is the beginning of just a few steps on tightening down things. There was a ruling passed very recently outlawing AI outbound robocalling, where some services were actually providing hey, this is an AI service, it's going to be a phone call. And people were trying to use that for cold calling because obviously an AI is the ultimate cold caller, right? There's no rejection or anything going on there. AI is just going to cold call. You can't do that anymore unless you have a few certain things in place, which basically makes it not cold calling, you're calling inbound leads or data that has opted in to be contacted by you. Seems like the FCC's a little frustrated. They're really working on tightening down on these laws. The main thing they talk about here is the lead generator loophole. So the lead generator loophole is how brands, I'm going to talk about Angie's List because they're big, but so a homeowner fills out a form, sometimes, not even that, for Angie's List. And basically, you have to have a terms and conditions policy, you have to have a privacy policy, but we'll say something like, I consent for Angie's List and all of its partners to contact me regarding the service. It'll have some verbiage like that. Basically, what they're saying and what the ruling is now saying is that you have to have one-to-one opt-in consent. So if somebody wants to do business with my company, Prospect Bacon, they have to opt in to be contacted by Prospect Bacon. There cannot be an opt-in for Prospect Bacon and all of its partners. There's no more blanket consent. It is one-to-one consent. People have asked the question, well, could I just put a bunch of providers there? Yes, but it has to be clear and in a way a homeowner can see it, which I think would ultimately hurt opt-in rates on a form like that. We'll see what ways people are adapting. But the main thing of the rule is now it's one-to-one consent. So what does that mean if you're a solar company doing marketing or buying leads from a provider in 2024? Basically for me, compliant marketing always uses an acronym, THEN. Then compliant solar marketing is transparent. You can see what ads are running and what's being offered. You're not buying anything from a third party. Has terms of consent, opt-in, and privacy policy clearly naming your company or entity and no other providers. It's exclusive, so the consent to communicate with the lead does not apply to anyone else other than the entity that was on the terms of the consent, opt-in, privacy policy. And then N, you're not misleading consumers. So your ads cannot be misleading the consumers in any way, shape, or form. Now, why is this important? I think a lot of providers in the solar marketing space are either third party, they sell shared leads, or, there's some marketing agencies that I call pay-per-lead in disguise, where you're handing them all your cash, all your ad spend up front, you're handing them a giant gob of money and getting X amount of leads back. The problem I've always had with that, because you don't know if they're dipping their hand into the honey pot, where is ad spend going? You can't see what ads are being ran. I think it's just a bad experience and a bad setup all around. Especially if you trust the wrong company with that much money. They might take a certain percentage out for fees. If your lead cost goes up, you're wondering, did they spend all that money? Did they spend it on another client? That new house they bought, is it related to that? So we've already seen some examples of solar businesses. Even last year, there was a big case with Vision Solar where part of a $13 million lawsuit they were involved in was related to how they were illegally contacting homeowners. So this was before the new laws went into effect. It seems that attorney generals and the FCC are really interested in cracking down on some of this, especially with how much fraud and bad salesmanship is in the solar industry. I think this is something people are really in on. And when people are, screwing over homeowners, selling things improperly, selling bad offsets, they're going to throw the entire book at you. And so I think in a lot of people's eyes, solar's been painted in a bad light to a lot of attorney generals, to the FCC. And so they're going to start cracking down on people where they can. And if you remember, part of that statement, for those of you who are like, well, that's, Vision Solar is huge. There's that part in here is to impose certain parts of our robocall playbook, including traceback and authentication. If they're providing traceback stuff, like, is anyone really safe? I don't know. We don't exactly know what that's going to look like yet, but really important to start being compliant now instead of later. An ounce of prevention is better than a pound of cure. I absolutely think that's true for being compliant with your solar lead generation marketing 2024 and beyond. Some quick things, I think, just, checklist of things I would say if you're looking to do compliant lead generation for solar marketing 2024. If you're working with a marketing company, just make sure the ads are running from your ad account. Make sure you have access to those ad accounts. You can see what offers are being run. You can see your KPIs. Everything's transparent there. Stop using, shared lead companies, or at the very least be prepared to not be using them as a main source by the end of this year. And then, stop, buying lists of data. A lot of people buy homeowner data. Just stop doing that. And also stop buying data unless you have proof of opt-in and consent. That window on that data is closing because you really won't be able to use it come 2025. All right, everyone, I hope that was helpful on figuring out how to do compliant solar lead generation in 2024 and then 2025. There's a link in the description to a longer video along with a free PDF you can use. It's like Cliff Notes, a great summary. Head over to the link on the description. And if you're interested in compliant solar lead generation, you can check us out at prospectbacon.com. I appreciate you so much. We'll talk soon.